This is Ready, Set Reiki, a podcast about Reiki and all energy work, from the curious beginner to the seasoned master teacher, welcoming all systems, all lineages, all levels. Reiki is a journey and not a destination. And on this Ready, Set Reiki journey, I refer to myself as a guide rather than host, as I too am traveling, learning, and supporting others on this Reiki journey as well. And with that said, I am your guide, Tracy Seawright, and this is Ready, Set Reiki. Hello, everyone. Reiki family, Reiki blessings to you, one and all. Another journey ahead. But before we begin, I'd like to invite you to a special place on Facebook. Now, this is a place that is very safe to land, and that is the Reiki Business Collective. Here you share, support, and serve. Christian Stone does an amazing job rising up individuals, no matter where you are in that journey. And don't let that business name fool you. Maybe you're dreaming about it. Maybe you're thinking about it. Maybe you're deciding to write a song about it. Wherever you are in your journey, a seasoned business owner, this is a place to land where you can meet and connect and support each other. I don't ever want you to ever feel alone on this Reiki journey, and know there are people out there who are supporting and will help share and help you in your journey. Well, today is a very special Ready, Set Reiki journey, and I'm so honored to have a powerhouse of knowledge in the house, and I'm so excited about this. Now, as you're on social media, you may find groups where things are a little tense, a little bit charged, and you may ask a question and you're going to feel like you're getting attacked. A simple question as, is there a Grand Master in Reiki? And what would Usui think? And then you feel you're getting overwhelmed with different opinions. And where do you land? What do you think? What do you do? Is this a kind of modality that you even want to be a part of, when it's about service and love? But I want to reassure you that there are way showers. And what is a way shower? That is someone who is here to help be your guide, to show you a way, an opportunity that, hey, we're here to support you. You're not going to get the negativity. We're about peace. We're about love. We're about service. And this is a beautiful stress-reducing modality that will help you in your journey. So I'd like to give a warm Ready, Set Reiki welcome to Bronwyn and Mary. Welcome to Ready, Set Reiki. I am so over the moon to have both of you together. And as I said, a powerhouse of knowledge in the house. So as we begin this journey, and when I have two or more guests on, I always start with one. And so we're going to start with Bronwyn today. So Bronwyn, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I live in Australia. I live up in the mountains and outside of Sydney. And it's a little bit chilly this morning. By Celsius, it's 1 degree, so it's cold. And I've got lots of lovely animals here. I'm a big animal lover and a big Reiki lover. And I started practicing the system of Reiki back in, I think, 98. And then I was in India, and I learned it in Nepal, but opened up a Reiki center in India after first learning it, and was there for a year, and then came back to Australia, and was, the whole time trying to work out what on earth did I just learn, because it was a little bit confusing, and I had lots of, what do they used to call it, Xeroxed pieces of paper, so photocopied pieces of paper, and and they were all sort of like bunches of this and that, and I had no idea what on earth it all was, but I knew that I was really into it, and I just wanted to know more about it. So from the very beginning of learning the practice, I was I was really curious, and I guess I've always been a curious person. So I went to Japan, started researching things. With my ex-husband, I wrote the Reiki source book. I've always been a writer, so that was something that I was just loved doing. And that was putting together all the ideas from that time that we could find that historically that was happening in the system, and trying to make some sense of the system. For me, it's always been very much about putting ideas together rather than separate ideas. So trying to understand things as a whole practice rather than oh, it's just this or it's just that, but how did everything fit together? And then wrote a few other books, The Japanese Art of Reiki. So looking at it from a Japanese perspective, which was something I wasn't initially taught, but, and then brought people like Kyakutan Inamoto to Australia and started teaching around the world, so traveling and teaching. And for me, my interest was very much in finding out what the practice was and how still, how I guess how I sit within it and my life. So very much a life practice rather than just something that I would do as a treatment or something like that. And today I'm still incredibly curious and still finding out things. And I think that's what we're going to talk about today. So that's really interesting, all the different things that keep happening, and there seems to be a momentum at the moment for new things to be coming up about all the old things, and I love that. It's really interesting, and it sparks my mind and all the things that are going on in there as to the system and how it's put together.
Beautiful. And, we'll talk about the different changes that are happening. It's quite exciting. And I had a graduate of mine who was going to teach an upcoming class. And I'm like, this updated information. And I came across your blog and I'm like, this is it here. And I send her that, like, read this will help you this weekend. So I love that you are staying relevant. You're just as curious and as excited as all of us are watching this kind of unfold in the history that's getting updated. But you had that connection with Reiki. So when did the energy come into your life? Did you find Reiki or did it find you?
Reiki people always talk about this, huh? It's just a funny one. So I actually remember when I was quite young, I was in my early 20s, and that's sort of a weird thing, but I remember reading something about it and actually going to someone's place, and it wasn't Reiki. It was, I don't know what it was. It was something I had to fill in a form, and it was sort of strange, and I have no idea what it was, but something about, I don't know, maybe because it was a Japanese practice. I think I've always really been drawn to Japan culturally as much as anything. Yeah. So, that was sort of odd. And I went away thinking, I have no idea what that was. I think it was some sort of psychology thing. Anyway, then a friend of mine studied it, and I was living in Holland at the time, and she came and visited me, and she said, oh, can I do some Reiki on your feet? And I was like, oh, yes, please. And I loved it. And I was really trying to get into meditation and things like that at that time, but nothing really stuck. So I was, how you just sort of things start to come together. And then when I was in India, my ex-husband, Franz, he had a terrible back, and he had sciatica, and we were backpacking. So it was a problem, and we were looking for a solution. So we came across a book about Reiki, written by Paula Horan, and she had hand positions in this book. So I remember sitting on the edge of a bed going, like, I didn't know what I was doing, but I was like, please, this sounds curious and interesting. And I thought, well, the next time that we come across someone who teaches it, I'm going to learn that. And that was in Nepal. That's when I first came across someone who was teaching Reiki. Yeah.
Beautiful. So as a teacher, and you have your very own podcast, and you have two lovely co-hosts that you do the podcast with, what are some misconceptions that you hear about Reiki?
One is the name. Reiki is the energy. So it's actually a practice of some sort. And that was one of the very first things that I tried to understand. And I still cannot believe that people, that it's still, sorry, I'm not being rude here, but, that we call it Reiki, because it's so confusing. Because when people are talking to me, I'm like, well, are they talking about the energy, or are they talking about the practice? I don't know which, I think that's a really basic, fundamental misunderstanding. And I know that, the way I sort of try to get around that is clunky, and I can understand why people don't say like, oh, the system of Reiki, right? But I mean, really what I should be saying is probably Usui Reiki Ryoho, which is what I teach.
Yeah.
The only thing is then it's a Japanese word, and then people get a little bit like, oh, what is that? I don't know what that is. And so I think that is difficult, and it can sometimes lead to a lot of crossed wires in communication when people don't really know what it is that what is being expressed. And that leads to, I've really found in the practice that a lot of that over the years that it's gone in so many crazy, weird, and wonderful directions. And I think that might be a part of it, that there's this lack of foundation and basic understanding of what it is that we're doing. We can't even get the name right, let alone anything else. So, it would be great if we could somehow really think about this and define it a little bit more. Just think about what we're doing and work out a way that we have a better understanding of the actual practice.
Right, right. And I often find that too in yoga, because we have the word yoga, but then we have all these different styles. Mary, you know that as well. And people get confused about it because they think it's one thing. And it's like, oh, wait, it's yin. No, it's hatha. It's restorative. Like, oh my goodness, there's kids yoga. Now there's stick yoga. Now there's emo, it goes on and goat yoga. So we have all of these things, and it's like, and now we're finding it that, you have dolphin Reiki and you have fairy Reiki and rainbow Reiki, and it goes on and on and on. It seems like every time I turn around, there's a new system and people that are just creating their own.
But it's also the fact that Reiki means, well, there's different definitions, but spiritual energy. So it's not a practice of any sort.
Right.
And I think that's where, for me, that's confusing. But yes. Yeah. You're right. There's a lot of different types.
A lot of different things. So working with that energy, what surprised you about it?
Oh, wow. It changed my life completely from the very first moment that I did it. So, or studied it. So even though, like I said, I had all these bits of paper and I didn't really know what I was doing, it didn't really matter. There was something fundamentally just so life-changing about this idea that I could help myself in this way, and I could even help others. I think that is a unique element about this practice, that we can go both ways with that. I mean, most things like massage or whatever, it's a bit hard to do it on yourself, so it's really something you would do for someone else. But just that I could actually change my life, and in doing so, I can also affect other people as well. I think that's just mind-blowing. Yeah.
Beautiful. So experiencing the Reiki energy, teaching, the podcast, what is your hope for the future for Reiki?
I always have great hope. I like to think that that there is a greater openness in our world to understanding each other through the Reiki precepts, I think would probably be my basic thing. So, a greater compassion for each other, really trying to become more aware of who we are, aware of our anger and our fears, how we worry, being grateful, and it's all those lovely things that we are directed towards in the system of Reiki. If those things became fundamental to our societies, how different life would be for everyone. And so I would love to see, forget about all the different things that we do in the practice, but just if we just thought of the practice as being the precepts, and if those precepts were something that people could take to heart and actually start to bring out from inside and shared that with each other. And I know a little while ago, our Prime Minister in Australia had said something like, it's great if we can just be kind. And I thought, wow, he'll probably get kicked out next week, but, if only our leaders worldwide, right? If we could bring those ideas of kindness and love and caring and more self-awareness into our world, what a great place it would be.
Absolutely. And if we began in the schools too, right, with just pausing and being kind and just for today, if
we are the role models. Yeah, we're the role models for our children. So we need to do it. We can't put it all on the kids, but we can help them, bring them up in that way for sure.
Right. A whole generation of it.
Yeah.
So what other modalities or services do you offer?
I don't. So Reiki's the thing. So that is me. And, but saying that, I spend all my time delving into that and working with that and trying to create ways to help people to connect more with the practice, get a better understanding of the practice, more clarity of thought about what they're doing. And hopefully then, talking about the future, if we're really clear about our practice, then we will be much more excited and much more confident about moving into the future with our practice. So, yeah, I think for me, I don't have any other modalities, but I really find a lot of material to work with in the simplicity of the system. So I'm trying not to create more things, but going down into it. Yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I love that. Well, thank you, Bronwen Logan. We will circle back around to you. And now it's time for you, Mary. Welcome to Ready, Set Reiki. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Tracy. Well, I live in central New York, so outside of the Syracuse area. And I live with my husband, who is a yoga teacher and trainer. And we live in a beautiful, beautiful area, nice residential area, and we love where we live. I love practicing Reiki here and, just enjoying just living a Reiki lifestyle here. But I know you're going to ask me about when Reiki came into my life, right? Reiki really, I think Reiki found me when I was, kind of at my lowest. I had been working as a mental health counselor. I'm a psychologist. And that was, my career for most of my life. But I burned out really, really bad. And I started to have a lot of medical symptoms that nobody could figure out what was going on. And in addition to all the stress of my job, my building was being renovated. And so I was being exposed to a lot of toxins. And I didn't realize really how it was affecting me until it was kind of too late. And I kept working through it until I just couldn't. So I was out of work and I was really kind of non-functional. I had respiratory issues. I had digestive issues, rashes, brain fog, fatigue, chronic fatigue, and all of that. And I found Reiki at I think it's kind of a wellness fair. I was kind of just recovering and looking for something to do that wasn't really taxing. And I went to a wellness fair and I was just kind of looking around and there was a booth with someone offering Reiki and I didn't really know what it was. And I decided to just go over and, experience it. And I think I might have had like a 5-minute session, something like that. And in those few minutes, I really felt like something shifted. I felt like I started to have energy coming back into my body when I had been feeling so bad. And I don't think I could explain what was going on at the time, but I thought, that's something that I need to have more of in my life. I kind of feel better than I have in a long time just from experiencing this. With someone practicing hands off, not ever touching me, and it seemed very mysterious to me. But I decided to receive more Reiki after that. And then eventually I learned Reiki. But that's kind of when it found me.
Beautiful. I love that. And here you are teaching, coaching, writing a book, right? And both of you are changing the world. I love it. So as you're out navigating and listening to and reading different things about Reiki, what are some misconceptions that you have heard about Reiki?
Wow, there's so many. I think maybe misconceptions that I had, first of all, but then also misconceptions that my clients and students come in with. I think that when I first received Reiki, not knowing anything about it, I think that the first thing I believed about it was that someone was doing something to me. Someone was filling me with energy that they had and I didn't, that they were providing me with something that I didn't have. So I think that maybe was from the fact that I didn't feel well and I was very, very weak and tired. But that was something that I had to learn, that that's not what Reiki is. It's not channeling. It's not someone having something that you don't have and giving it to you. And then you're kind of, beholden to them, or, they have the responsibility to heal you or something like that. So that's something that I had to learn. That wasn't the case at all. And I think that a lot of times people come into my classes thinking that too. And it puts a lot of pressure on you as a practitioner as well, to think that you have to provide something for someone else, heal them,
Right.
That you have something that they don't, that you're giving them Reiki. So I don't even call it giving a Reiki session. I call it sharing Reiki with someone, because I just like to shift that in terms of like just the mindset piece of it. So that's one of the bigger misconceptions. But then the one that Bronwyn said as well, so many people think that Reiki is hands-on healing or a Reiki session. That's all they know about Reiki. They don't know that it's a system of practice, and they think of it as Reiki, the energy, rather than Reiki, the system, because they're not even aware of that.
Right.
So there's so many.
Yeah. In the beginning, it was a touchless massage. That's where I saw it advertised as. Touchless massage. Here. I'm like, okay. So what has surprised you about working with Reiki within this system?
Wow. I think the surprise for me, thinking back to the very beginning, was that it really could be something that was, a lifestyle, something that I could use practically every single day, not something that was performed, not something that I would have to go and receive and then be done with it. That it's something that, I could live into. Yeah. So very different than kind of what I went in with the misconceptions all about. And I think that's important too. As we learn, then we can embody that for others. Yeah. So the practicality of it and just living into, once I received Reiki for a while, I think it was about a year, my Reiki practitioner said to me, you could learn Reiki for yourself and then you could practice yourself in between sessions. And even at that point, I thought, oh no, you have a gift. I don't have that gift. You've been helping me, but I can't imagine doing that myself. Right. So I think that was a great learning experience, because moving into that and being able to, I felt like it helps me to take my healing into my own hands and take that and start to embody it. So that was a huge shift for me in the beginning.
Right. I had studied the Usui Rahiho, and in the lineage that I was in, it actually had 4 levels. You went to level 1, level 2, level 3 made you a master practitioner, and then you apprenticed with the master for about a year. And recently, I decided to go back to that original manual. And when I apprenticed, one of the things that we would do is we would refine our own manual and then go out into the world and teach it. And when I went back to that first level 1 manual that I learned from, and I was looking through it, knowing and seeing what's happening now in the world and getting more knowledge, because I was so thirsty that there had to be something more. Like this, the pieces weren't fitting together with that first training. And I look back and I thought, oh my goodness, like this is just, I can't believe that this was even put together. And I found out that many pieces were kind of pieced together from other people's things and kind of Frankenstein put together. And it made me like, oh my goodness, no wonder this didn't click. And I had to go on this journey of different styles of the energy, right? And these systems. And so it's kind of interesting. Now I'm going back and kind of rebuilding things with the information I have now. So a lot of it could have to be to do with kind of the teachers, find that ethical teacher, right? Ask those questions. And I didn't know any better because I just thought, oh, Reiki, I just typed it in. Oh, there's a place down the road. I'm going to go there. And some of this stuff, it really would have put me in the wrong direction if I didn't keep asking those questions. Like I just was like, well, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. And then I went off to Usui Holy Fire and I'm like, whoa, like I was told like, oh, Usui never took notes and all these other things. And Hayashi didn't either. And then I'm like, wait, he had a healing guide? Like, whoa, like this is crazy. Like I was just like, oh, wow, like a whole new world was opened up. So what is your hope for the future of Reiki?
I think that I really do have a lot of positive feelings about how Reiki, even though right now I feel like it's having an identity crisis in a way, but I do have a lot of positive feelings about the future of Reiki. I think we'll get there. And for me, it would be about just understanding and appreciating all Reiki paths and lineages and becoming less polarized than we are right now. I think now that things are kind of getting a little agitated and people are starting to kind of polarize and take stands, for one thing or against another thing. I think we will come to maybe a better understanding and be able to appreciate where other people are coming from and support each other in whatever way that we decide to practice. So, yeah, I feel really good about the future of Reiki, but I think in the meantime, we have some stuff to do.
We have some work to do, right? For sure. So do you offer any other modalities, services, classes, trainings?
Yeah, so just like for Bronwyn, Reiki is the only thing I do. I don't practice any other types of healing methods or anything like that. But I do offer Reiki sessions, classes, all levels of Reiki classes and training. I love doing coaching and mentoring. I feel really good as I've been practicing for about 24 years. And I feel like moving into this time of my life, I can really give back. So I love offering coaching and mentoring. And I offer a monthly Reiki circle for people to come to experience it, whether they are Reiki people or not, whether they're trained or not. So all of those things, there are probably other things that I'm not thinking of. Yeah.
You'll think about, and if it pops up, you have an opportunity to say that. Well, this ends the first part of our journey. I'm going to guide you into the second part. And again, this is a special Ready, Set Reiki. So I will ask each one of you the same question. So Bronwyn, we are going to start with you. So number one, right here, what is exciting you about the direction that Reiki is currently taking in our world?
Yeah, I'm loving the fact that there is new information coming out, and you have mentioned there was some of the information that's come out is that there was a handwritten CV, and I think that's what you're talking about. Yeah, a handwritten CV by Mikao Usui himself from 1904, and he had been working in Taiwan, and it was a CV that he, I guess, had given to it. Well, it explained that that's what he'd done and what he'd done prior to that. And, it confirmed a lot of things, I think, rather than anything else. But it was just exciting to see something written down, right. And in his handwriting, I mean, we don't have anything that I am aware of yet about that. Gosh, who knows what else could happen? Yes, what could come out. But the CV then tells us his history, and it's not a spiritual history. It's a practical, what he studied and worked at type of history. And that did confirm a lot of the things that we already knew from the memorial stone, that he was a curious man too. And he was someone who had a lot of interest in life in lots of different ways. And I love that. I think I can really relate to that. And he studied, first off, he studied things like classical Chinese, but then he went on to study things like philosophy, psychiatry, not psychiatry, but psychology and philosophy. He studied to be a teacher. And I think if we look at how the system apparently developed, then, we can see a lot of these things mirrored in that. So we can see that, possibly he started the system as a practice where he would just be with someone and he would teach one-on-one, and really it was very much an energetic experience more than anything. So, and then how that then developed, we know that later he brought in things like the symbols, because for people who had trouble actually trying to understand energy or connect with what he was talking about, that not everyone worked in the same way, that we didn't all pick up things in the same way. So bringing in the different things and starting with the mind, because he was he was interested, he studied, philosophy and psychology. So, having those precepts there as that mental foundation to what we do. And so, looking at who he was, what he did, and he did go to the US. I always wondered whether he did go to the US, because I thought, that just seems so out there. But at that time, it was something that I think was a big thing to do, but it was something that the Japanese were starting to really move out into the world and experience the world. And also that he went to Taiwan. When he went to Taiwan, he was working for the Japanese government as someone who was studying the the cultural elements of Taiwan. So you can see how interested he's in everything that he did, interested in people, and interested in how we work and why we do things. And so the other thing, I guess, that was also very interesting is that there is a bit of a Christian element to it, which was another part of I was like, maybe Hawaii Takata just sort of said that to make it sound like he wasn't too Japanese and made it more acceptable in America. And, there's all these things that you think about, because we didn't have a lot of extra information. When you've only got information from one person, for example, we either have to believe it, but we can also question it. And so I did question a lot of the stories that she had, but I feel like a lot of the stories that she told are actually really just by this simple CV that they're supported. And isn't that wonderful? I love that. And I think it's given me a lot more faith, I guess, if you like, in what she taught. And I know that she had to shift things around to sit in a space that wasn't pro-Japanese in her early lifetime as a Reiki practitioner, which would have been incredibly difficult. So yeah, I love that. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's just exciting to see all this unfold, because I was taught she told little fibs, and then now you're seeing like this, and then there was something that came out about Hayashi about questioning if he was a doctor, and then even the story of Usui going and stubbing his toe was like, oh my goodness, this is mind blowing. That's changing everything I thought I knew, and it's wow, how exciting is that? But you can find out more about, you have an episode on the Reiki Women's podcast about symbols, right?
Sure. Yeah. We've got I think we've got, how many episodes have we got? We've got 200 episodes.
Yeah.
So we have on every subject. We've got
Every
something.
subject. Every subject.
But there will definitely be something on symbols there for sure. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, Mary, what is exciting you about the direction that Reiki's taking?
Well, for sure, all the stuff that you've just been talking about, all of that for sure. It's so exciting to me to just put those pieces together. But beyond that, I think that one of the things that is really exciting for me is that, and I'm about giving access to more people. Like, I really hope that we can, open Reiki up to not just gatekeep it and not just for people who can, quote unquote, afford it and come to us and all of that, but to be able to provide access for more people via practicing remotely. So having Zoom and having the internet and being able to practice, my complete practice now is remote.
Oh, yeah.
So I do all of my sessions remotely. I do all of my classes on Zoom, all of my coaching and all of that kind of thing. And I really feel like it's just a wonderful thing. And I know that in the beginning of that, it was very kind of looked down upon because there were, I remember back kind of early on, there were things where you could just purchase a Reiki certificate. And that was what was thought of as online training. Like, I'm just going to buy a Reiki certificate.
Yeah.
But at this point, all of my classes are live. I spend hours and hours working with people, coaching people and things like that. And I've noticed a shift, just the fact that I can, just think about like us being here today. We're all from different areas. We can come together and we can share ideas and things like that. And so we can also share Reiki remotely. And I noticed that in my classes and in the sessions, I love to see when I, connect with somebody for a session and they are curled up in their bed, or they have like, they're on their sofa or something like that, or they're in the recliner and they're ready for their session. And, or they're in their class and they're just in their own living room. They can turn their camera off if they want to. They can be emotional if they want to and not feel like they're in somebody's office or something like that. Anyway, I could talk about that for a long time,
Absolutely.
but I really feel like it's a wonderful thing to be able to just give access to people from, wherever they are. I live in a place that gets very cold and very snowy, and a lot of times travel is not so great.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember having a lot of trouble with people being able to get to class.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We had a class at a certain time or, that type of thing. And now they don't have to worry about any of that. So they can just come from their own, safe surroundings. And it's a really beautiful thing.
Right. And I don't know about you, Bronwyn, but I know here in El Paso, commercial property is very expensive, and to have to pay for all of these different things for people to do in person.
Yeah.
But man, when you mention it online, do people come up? They're absolutely not. No, it has to be in person. But you can have a fantastic ethical teachers like both of you here that are online. And if you have that connection, and then you can have someone who's in person that's not very ethical that can take advantage of you. So I really just say, feel that connection. Who do you trust there? You can have this really fantastic, amazing teacher online, and it feels as if we're in the same room, right? Mm-hmm. But you'll have that online where people are like, absolutely not. Nope, can't happen. Has to be in person. And it just blows up with that as well. Are you finding that, Bronwyn, as well?
What Mary said, I'm 100% behind. Honestly, I just cannot believe how it's changed things. And I think it's down to COVID, because prior to that, I was not, I did work online and would do web classes and things like that. But it was a little extra thing rather than how I would teach. Now, I basically am exactly the same as Mary. And because I don't live in the city, I live in the country, and I, teach people not just in Australia, obviously. So, I find it, I love it. I love the fact that, I could be in bed half an hour ago and now I'm here with you guys because it's early in the morning here. But, I mean, isn't that just amazing? And, the podcast, I could never have had the two women I work with on the podcast live in California, so it is really interesting how we can do this. And, I've created, we'll talk about it later, but I created recently a course for people who've done Reiki 3 and to help them with all the things that we're sort of talking about now. Yeah. And, it's all online. And I have taken every bit of what I could think of that would be supportive through an online method and brought into that. There's actually a lot of tools there for us to work with. And it's stuff that now there's all this information there for people. It's online. They can access it from wherever they are, whenever they want, for however they like. And, it's actually, I find, possibly a better system in some ways. And the other thing is, Mary, you said about, for students, like I actually have some, I can think of one particular student who has problems with vertigo, and she spends most of her life lying flat. Now, that person would not be able to study with anybody. And now she has the opportunity because of things like this. And I love it. I think it's changed so much for us, and hopefully it will bring us all more together every day.
Beautiful. I love that. So as a teacher, I had worked in Pennsylvania, and in Pennsylvania, every few years you have to do what's called your Act 48. You have to go back and have 180 credit hours to keep your certification going. So as you're out, you have all this experience, years behind you here. Many master teachers of many years find it unnecessary to look at current information regarding the history. Do you believe that it's important to stay relevant with Reiki? Mary, we'll start with you.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely. I mean, I think that it's so important to not be stagnant. And I know that, I've heard this from my colleagues too, people that I love and care about. But they're like, oh, I learned Reiki in whatever year it was. And my class was 1 hour long and I got a handout and I'm good. I don't need to learn anything more. I don't need to think about changing or anything like that. Maybe it's just, maybe it's some of us, but I'm really curious and I want to keep up my standards. And I feel like unless you're giving people the most relevant information, then, we still are under misconceptions with certain things. We're piecing it together. We haven't had all the information. And Reiki is something that, if there's anything to it, it's about change, right? And so Reiki is going to evolve through us and it's going to change with us and we're going to change because of it. And I think we're always going to have to just keep up and be relevant. With the people that I teach to master level, I'm always telling them this, there may be a new manual coming out or a new update or new information coming up. Make sure that you're staying relevant as you're teaching. And they're like, oh no, I don't want to have to change what I'm saying to people. I have it all set and that's all there is to it. And I really think that, with students, I think it's important for us as students to be discerning and make sure that we're picking teachers that are willing to stay relevant. Just with with everything. Like if you're taking a college course or if you're taking a high school, whatever it is. I think as teachers, I totally agree with you, Tracy, that it's important for us it's a little bit extra work, of course, but it's important. If we are going to represent ourselves as teaching this modality, I think it's super important for us to definitely stay on top of it. And I love it. I'm so curious about all the stuff coming in and processing it and, looking at different people that are bringing things forward and going, wow, I'm spending time every week doing that right now.
I love that.
Just to be able to get it clear in my own head as much as I can, and it will continue to change. But I think you have to kind of just be open to that.
Oh, yeah. And it's even like with science and medicine. I was going through, we went to put flooring into our bedroom. So we moved some of my husband's medical books out. And I'm like, well, do you want to get rid of these books? I mean, these were back from 1999, 2000. He says, I'm going to hold on to them. I'm like, COVID's not even in here. Think about that. Just think of the things that have changed, in this time period of 26, 25 years. And he's like, so things shift and change. I know the Healing Touch, the Usui Holy Fire, their manual, they've added in the updated information in that as well. The article that was in the Reiki News magazine, they've put that in. So things are starting to shift and change. Bronwyn, do you have a take on this?
Yeah. So what's the exact question?
The exact question was that teachers of many, many years, do you think it's important for them to stay relevant?
Yeah, absolutely. So, for me, it's crucial. And I think because it reflects who we are. And if we just say this, if we come to something with a closed mind, then, what are we teaching? We're teaching to be closed to the world. And as Mary said, the system, it's about teaching us about change. And I always say it's about letting go. So, letting go of all these things that, we hold on to. You've mentioned some of them already, Tracy, like, that Hayashi was a doctor. I mean, we knew that Usui wasn't a doctor. And by the way, that's confirmed because of the CV that we read. So that he definitely was not a doctor. But, the whole story about, I did write a blog actually where I put together all the different information about Hayashi as well, it is really interesting. And a lot of people have done some great research on that. And so I tried to sort of bring that into one space so people to help people understand. We thought that Hayashi was a doctor because of the manuals that you were talking about, where, he talks about everything from a slightly not totally, but slightly medicalized sort of perspective. But at any rate, he wasn't a doctor, and it's okay, And look, in one way, it doesn't matter if we say doctor. My only concern with using terminology like that is that it can falsely represent the system, and that is not right. It makes people then on the outside of that, who don't know that history, think, it's a medical system, or something. And we definitely are not a medical system, and we shouldn't be representing ourselves as such. So it is good to know these things and to understand that, especially if you're teaching. If you're teaching, you want to be able to teach information that is that's valid. I mean, there's no point in teaching something that's not true. I mean, why teach it then? What, how are you as an ethical person representing yourself, representing the practice? And so, we do need to stay up to date with things. And fortunately, there's new information coming out. And as you've both said, we need to process that. We need to think about it. We need to think how that fits into what we already know. And sometimes it goes against what we already know. Okay, well, that's okay. But something else that I think is really important.
Yeah. I know when I would teach about Dr. Hayashi, I would say, well, this is his healing guide. And hey, if you want to kind of explore with it, but no, you're not a doctor, you can't diagnose. And, this was hours and hours. And now I'm like, wow, I'm really going to have to change the way that I'm teaching. But, I used to teach at one time, I'm old enough to teach that Pluto was a planet. Right? That it was the USSR. So these are things I used to teach about the Berlin Wall. Things are not existing anymore because things shift and change, right? Yeah. I mean, can you imagine if I walked into a class now of like 6th and 7th graders and talked about this, and we used to pronounce, Uranus, right? Or Uranus, and pronounce it different ways. We shift and change and giggle and laugh, right? So all these things. All right. Our next one is about the man. And if people don't know who this is, so this is Usui Sensei, and we have a few questions about him. So this is sparked by an individual who asked the question, what would Usui think
today would be absolutely disgusted. Now, with this, the reality today versus what Usui would have likely reacted to appears today online that they use Usui as a justification to judge and state that Usui would be disenchanted or angry of how Reiki has evolved from everything from dolphin Reiki to fairy to rainbow to Celtic. Oh my, right? And so, as a historical figure, historical records of teaching, such as those preserved by the original Usui Reiki Rahyugakai and modern Japanese lineages, suggest that maybe, what would he do? So in today's world, would you think, Bronwyn, would Usui be disgusted? Would he be frustrated?
Well, we have only a few little things of that he's apparently said, like written down. So in the manual, one of the manuals that you're talking about, there is a little Q&A section at the beginning. And I guess that's a really good place to have a look and to see what he thought about the world. And he did say that he wanted this practice to be for everyone. So I think that's a really good place to come from with that question. So, and everyone means, the weirdos as much as the non-weirdos and, it's not black and white like that, I know. But you know what I'm saying? It's for anyone. And what we know about people is that we'll all do our own thing with that, create our own things, and that's natural. I think we need to, one thing that I teach with the practice from the very beginning are the words let go. We need to let go. And we can hold on to a whole lot of value judgments about others, but we're all different. And I was going to say before, actually, with the new information that is also coming out from Japan at the moment, we need to understand that these are also just people. It's not like there's some sort of like godlike figures that these are just people, and it's good. They're people like us. And Usui was also a person like us. So, I don't feel like we should be putting people on pedestals, and we should definitely respect people, but we should all respect each other. Right. And so yeah, I think that Usui would just think, wow, really? That's amazing. And you can do that. I think he would go with what I don't think he would say you can't do something. I think he would say, this is what I'm doing, but hey, whatever you're doing, I just don't feel like he would really have a judgment on it, to be honest. And at the time of his life, there are a lot of people doing very similar practices, but all different, all unique, according to the teacher and what the teacher wanted to do with that. And I can't imagine from his teachings that he would have necessarily been competitive with that and have been saying, oh, they're no good, you can't go to that school. I doubt it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I recall a time when I had gotten like really angry about something. And then I was questioned, why are you getting angry? And I thought, well, Jesus got angry. If Jesus got angry, how, I'm going to, I should be able to get angry too, and have that emotion, right? We're human beings, we're experiencing it. It's one thing, as you mentioned before, not to dwell in something, right? But to just, go back to that precept, just for today, I will not anger. Right? Bring it back to that. Mary, your thoughts?
Yeah, I completely agree with what you're all saying. And I think that, when I think about the question, I think about just going back to looking at things through the lens of the precepts. And that's probably, if I could kind of project out what he would be like, he would probably look at the whole situation through the lens of the precepts, because that's, those are ways of being, just ways of viewing, being present, not going into anger and judgment, not going into worry that, my way is, going away or something like that, being threatened, having compassion. And, if the story is right, which we hear that he asked Hayashi to further develop the system, I think that, I don't know if we have like documents saying that, but that's kind of what I've always heard, that he asked Hayashi to do that. When we create something, whether it's a song, a piece of art, whatever it is, a child, if we give birth to children, whatever it is, they're out in the world, right? This creation of ours is out in the world, and it changes because it's living, right? And it's interacting with the world, and the context is different. So now in 2026, it's a completely different time. So I think that it cannot not change, right? And I think that Usui was someone who was authentic. He practiced what he preached, kind of, so to speak, right? And so I think that I don't think he would be disgusted. I kind of really don't believe he would be disgusted or say, because there were contemporaries, like Bronwyn said, and they weren't polarized like we are right now and saying my way is the better way. He just named it his style. This is the way he does it. But other people were doing it too, and that was okay. So I think he would be cool.
Right. I even had in someone's comment that said, no, because of the ley lines. I'm like, well, what does this have to do with the ley lines coming into this? I mean, they were pulling in all these kind of things. I was like, okay. Well, it's interesting that you mentioned 2026. So if Usui were alive today, would he have opened the Usui Reiki Rahiho Gakkai to the public? Bronwyn, your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, the thing about the Gakkai, look, I mean, we're not Japanese, so it's a little bit difficult for us to sort of even go there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Japanese culture is really very unique, beautiful, different. And I have always found it quite challenging to understand the mindset of that, because it is so different to the culture that I come from. So it's a bit hard to answer the question in that sense. But I don't know. I mean, the idea, associations in Japan have a certain place in people's lives, which I think is different to associations that we might, like I might go to a book club and, I might go 1 week, don't go another week. I'll say, I'll come back in 6 months. I think that we may not have a monetary system around it. I think that associations in Japan are treated differently to how we might do that. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm finding this hard to answer. Look, thinking of it at the moment, the association has very old people in it. Mm-hmm. And they did open briefly for a while. And, one of my favorite stories, I just said this in the last podcast that we did for Reiki Women podcast, but one of my favorite stories is where Hiroshi Doi says that when he joined, and he must have been around 60 at the time, and the people in the association said, oh, goody, it's a young one. Because... Yeah, because the people are very old in the association. Yeah. But interestingly, there are it's almost become a family passed on system within the association. So it is actually members of families who join it rather than people like ourselves. And I respect that. I mean, that's what they want to do and how they want to do it, and that's fair enough. We do have some understanding of what they teach and how they teach. I like it. I love learning that information. I find it really fascinating and interesting. Doesn't mean I need to be a member of it. I respect that they may not want to open up to people like myself or others, but it doesn't mean I can't be interested and curious.
Beautiful. Mary?
Yeah, I agree. It's super hard to think about answering this question, but when I think about it, it's not open to the public now even. So, we do have to look at it through the lens and the context of the culture. But Usui also wasn't really a gatekeeper, right? So he wanted access. He wanted it to be for everyone. I don't know if he would have opened the Gakkai to everyone, but he wanted access. So I think it's a toss up. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
Okay. Fair
What
enough.
would you
That's
do?
fair enough. Fair enough. His thoughts on instant masters, quick studies, these quick fix weekend certifications that really bypass the loss of the 5 principles. Bronwyn?
Yeah, I know when I first studied this practice that there was a lot of that happening. I guess it's still happening today. I don't really know, to be honest, but I guess, it'll always be happening to some degree while there's no regulation. Yep. And so I think for some people that might be an entry point to something else is what I think. Yeah. And it's okay. We all need different things at different times. Look, if we go looking for what we need at the time, and I know, like I said, I've set up a course for people who finished Reiki 3 and want to go on and find out more information. That's not for everybody, right? And we're all at different places in our lives at different times. So I'm not going to. I think if people want to do that, that's fine. I guess what we need to do is to be very clear if we're teaching in that way about what we're teaching and what people are getting out of that. Yeah.
Mary?
Yeah, completely. I think that in my experience, so many times people have come to me and taken classes with me and said, I have to tell you, I did, one of these quick, Udemy courses or something like that. And it was an entry point. So for me, maybe, thinking that just putting it into context, like maybe it doesn't replace, maybe somebody would think like, oh, I can take this course and I'm going to be all set. Probably by the end of it, they're going to realize that there's something missing, right? That they don't have a live teacher. They can't ask questions. Maybe they want more, but it might spark them to get more. And that's okay. It's just kind of like reading a book. The symbols are in books now. People will say to me, oh, I read a book and I know the symbols and now I'm a Reiki master. Yeah. Well, how's that working for you? Right?
Yeah.
Probably not so great. Maybe you need a little bit more. But, I think that people need somewhere to start, right? And sometimes it's not just jumping into a full class with a live teacher. So, I think that there probably is always going to be something like that. And we just have to realize it and put it into context and offer, the best we can. And people will realize what that difference is and they'll get to the place where they need to be. Or they'll be like, oh, it's not for me and I'm not going to go further. I think that's okay.
Right. I'd say to be careful too where you're getting that. So like if you're getting some of your information from like YouTube where 46% of it's not vetted, make sure you're really researching that teacher that's presenting it. So this is our last question about Usui. If he was here in 2026, would he have a podcast? Would he be teaching online? Let's see. Would he have his TikTok account, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, do I get to go? I think why not? Hey, look, he wanted it to be out there for everyone. How do you reach everyone? But I have to say, saying that, he had about 2,000 students, right? And then if we look at like Aguchi, who was a peer of his who also taught a similar practice at the time, he had like 200,000 students. So maybe Aguchi was on TikTok, right? And I don't know, maybe what would Usui have done? I don't know, maybe not TikTok, but I'm saying that I don't see that he would be against the opening of taking advantage of how can you reach people and so why not? But I wish I could find a good alternative that he would have been on. I'm going to say Facebook, but I don't know.
Right. Insight Timer, maybe, that might be a good one that he's on. I kind of tell people it's kind of like the Catholic Church, how it's evolved to certain things that were very taboo and then as time has progressed, it has been a little bit more open with that. I remember my stepmother, who was this, I would color her a devout Catholic, was excited that it counted to watch it on TV during COVID, right? Like, oh, I'm not going to get in trouble, so she was so worried about, getting in trouble with that. Your thoughts, Mary?
Well, I would say that Usui was open to visibility, because when he, went out to help after the earthquake, the Great Kanto earthquake, there were articles written about him in newspapers and things like that. And so he kind of got on the front page, right? And so I think maybe he would be a YouTube star. Like maybe his YouTube would go, you get huge. And I have a feeling he would probably be on both of your podcasts.
Right.
So cool.
He would probably have his own too.
But he also taught the naval officers. I mean, that in itself, I think, was sort of that's. I always thought that was quite unique and interesting that he went in that direction. I mean, it's certainly not what you would consider a spiritual direction. It's more a practical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And wasn't he on his way to get an award when he got sick, when he had a stroke? I think I had read in one of the manuals or something somewhere, he was on his way teaching and he was going to get some kind of award or something. So that was quite interesting. So maybe that was one of those stories out there that were floating around. So we'll have to take a little, it's be careful, because you hear different things and then it's like, I never heard that, and you hear different things. So yeah. So here is our last two questions, and it is about you. So Bronwyn, tell us where we can find you if we want to get in touch with you. Where can we find your podcast?
Yeah. So I'm at Reiki with Bronwyn. Yeah. And Bronwen. And I have just redone my website, so I'm very happy with it. It's so beautiful. So I've got lots of lovely things. There's so many fantastic resources. I just actually created a game on how you can learn the Reiki precepts in Japanese. So it's free. Go on, have a go at it. See if you can learn them in Japanese. And it's the full precept. So it's not just the 5 precepts with the little intro. It's the whole full precepts. So that's sort of fun. And Usui did tell us that we should practice that in the morning and the evening. So good thing to learn. And talking about that, I'm in the process, but I actually haven't finished this, but I'll say it anyway. I'm just making a practice that people, it's like an app, and you can, it will remind you to do your practice in the morning and the evening and guide you through it. And there's a long version and a short version for you to practice. And it's based on the Gakkai's practice, so how they would practice in Japan when they're together. That's really beautiful and interesting, and I'm loving doing that. But my main thing that I have is my Shimpuden Plus class. So Shimpuden is Reiki 3, if you like. Mystery Teachings in Japan, that's the translation for it. And the Plus is because it's for people who've done Reiki 3, and it's to really, I've got so many resources there. It's all this information that we've been talking about. There's all these videos, and there's quizzes, and there's all sorts of things for you to do. It should take you months to do, is the idea. And it links into my other online teachings, which are my weekly Reiju. So that's where we come together for 15 minutes every week. It's a subscription. We come together for 15 minutes and we sit in the energy of Reiki together. And then that's really beautiful. And then every second week, I have an hour class, and that is where we practice together. And we also look at some of the stuff that we've been talking about today. So we things that are changing and shifting, we practice, we look at, we talk about. So it's a great class for anyone who's really interested in wanting to move with the times and be there with their Reiki practice. So that hour class is for anybody who is a Reiki practitioner, and they can join that. Yeah.
Beautiful. And thank you for sharing that. So Bronwyn, the last part here is, as we've been talking, is there something that you may have forgotten or something you want to share with the listeners? The floor is yours.
Oh, anything I've forgotten? We didn't talk about the fact that there's also poetry in the system of Reiki, and I love that.
Yes.
And I know it's got nothing to do really with it, but
Yeah.
that's a big thing. And I have a class on that as well that you can do,
Right.
an online class.
Right.
But yeah, it's so beautiful. And that's something that really Hawaii Takata didn't bring into the
Yeah.
practice. And it's something that I think everyone should sort of get involved with. And the association in Japan has said in some of their manuals that the precepts and the poetry are the two foundations of the system of Reiki. So it's worth looking into.
Right. I remember in my level 3, there were poems in there. I'm like,
Yes.
look at that. And I haven't seen them in other different systems since. So, yeah. So, Mary, where can we find you if we want to connect with you?
Well, on my website, which is infinitelightcenter.com. I'm on Facebook and YouTube under Mary Riposo, and I have a Substack and podcast that's called Reiki Coach on Call. And my book is on Amazon, Grow Your Reiki Business. Yeah, so lots of things like that. You can also jump into my online Reiki circle every month. Lots of resources on my website too.
Beautiful, beautiful. And in the Reiki News magazine in the summer edition, there you are, your ads right there for your book. And I was like, I know her. That's exciting. I know you.
Your article's in there.
My article's in there.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So some great resources. That's a great resource to have. And it comes out, four times a year. So anything that you might have forgotten, something that you want to share as we've been talking, the floor is yours, Mary.
Well, just that I have a nice Reiki coaching group that I see. We do a live call every month, and we talk about all kinds of things. We share practices and learn about different aspects of Reiki business, and just deepen our practice in whatever way the group is kind of looking to, gaining confidence, feeling more connected, and building a really nice community. So that is always open for more people to come into. I love to do it.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you all for sharing that. That ends our part of our journey. I appreciate both of you for taking time out of your very busy schedule to be part of this Ready, Set Reiki journey with me.
Thank you.
All right, as we end this journey, Usui's students memorialized Usui as a man of great learning, virtue, and compassion. And true to the final precepts, be kind to every living thing. We cannot assume or infer by his teachings and students that his reaction would not be to anger or disgust about the things that if he were alive in 2026, that he would see. He would likely smile and be humble that his system helps so many people in the world, and quietly handing modern practitioners a copy of those 5 principles to ground them back to basics. So when you see these things online, just for today, be kind and be like all of us here, way showers, and letting people know this is a beautiful and wonderful system that can change your lives. I know all of us here, it deeply changed our lives. So thank you, everyone. This has been Ready, Set Reiki, and I'm Tracy Seawright. And if you like questions to be featured on the podcast, reach out www.readysetreiki.com or find me on social media. So have an amazing and wonderful Reiki journey.